Hey everyone, welcome back to the Tipping Point Podcast. I have a very special guest with me today, Ricardo Carrillo, top 100 mortgage broker in the US. He has a lot of experience in the real estate industry, and he's just a very intelligent guy and a really kind guy here, sitting with me here today. So I'm really excited to get into it. We're going to talk about a lot of things, but first I'm going to start off with, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
Doing good. Got up early this morning, landed in LA. I was telling you I didn't feel like driving, but it was a quick flight. It was only like 45 minutes.
Yes.
So we're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. It's good. It was a good flight, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so how did you get into this business, first of all? Because you don't just, well, some people do, but most people don't just wake up thinking, this is what I want for my career. You know, some people do, but most don't. So how did you get into this? Tell me the background behind that.
Yeah, I think I've always had like an entrepreneurial mindset when it came to like things that I was wanting to do. Like I was the kid selling candy in middle school and high school to flip it and make more money.
Right.
So it kind of started from that. But in terms of like me knowing what direction that I wanted to go in terms of what line of work, I always knew that I wanted to do something with real estate. I didn't know that I necessarily wanted to actually be working in real estate because I had already seen, just growing up, you know, working on my parents' properties. My parents didn't know anything about real estate investing at all. Both my parents are immigrants. My mom came from Portugal. My dad came from Mexico.
Nice.
And neither of them graduated high school. Neither of them graduated college. And they were able to purchase real estate through the work that my dad was doing in structural steel. They bought real estate. They were the ones working on the properties, doing everything. Whenever we had any sort of turnover, me and my siblings were there with my parents working on the properties, and we were doing everything. And I saw the wealth behind the scenes that kind of grew for my parents and what was built for my other family members that also got into real estate because of my dad. And I had already known that I wanted to own real estate, but I didn't know that it was going to lead me to be in mortgages. And so when I got fired from my job in banking, I knew that I needed to figure out what I was going to do. I worked with my dad in structural steel for 3 months, and I had already worked with him before, so I already knew what we were doing. It's just not a career field that I wanted to be in terms of manual labor, working in construction or steel. And so I had been listening to the Bigger Pockets podcast at the time.
Right.
And with Bigger Pockets, I was getting very much into real estate investing, even though at the time I couldn't purchase any real estate, but I knew that I wanted to do something in real estate. So the day after I got fired, I went to the broker's office in Brentwood where David Greene had his real estate team. I left my resume. I left my resume with the broker. The broker told me that she was going to take it to David Greene's office, and it ended up landing on his office, but no movement for like 2-ish months. And then one day I just get a random text from him saying, "Hey, Ricardo, this is David Greene. I found your resume on my desk. Are you free for a quick phone call?" And so that kind of snowballed into me working with him in real estate. Initially, when I first started, I was working just as a transaction coordinator. So all that I was handling was like the contract documentation, the paperwork, and everything of the boring stuff in real estate that nobody really wants to deal with. And so that's what a transaction coordinator was doing, that piece. And afterwards, he came to me after maybe like 6 months and said, "Hey, I want to build a mortgage lending team.
Right.
We have been doing phenomenal with the real estate, but we have issues with the lending partners that we're working with and not being able to deliver things on time. We don't have control over it anymore. So I want to take it into my own hands, and I want to build a mortgage company. Are you willing to help me build the company?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know anything about mortgages, but I'm more than willing to learn." And he already knew that I had my background in banking, and that was kind of the only thing that I had with me in terms of knowledge at the time. He put me in touch with 6 or 7 different brokers, and all of them were absolute dog shit. Nobody knew anything in terms of what I needed for training, what we were trying to do with building the company. Everybody was claiming that they were super busy, and nobody was even answering my phone calls when I had questions or trying to get things done. until we came across Christian, who at the time, who's now the current broker of the one brokerage. And he was the only person out of everybody that David had put me in touch with who was actually willing to sit and train with me for 40 hours a week on Zoom every single week, while also still running his entire business.
Wow.
And Christian at the time was doing both real estate transactions. He was the realtor and the lender on the deal for his clients. So he was managing both sides. And then he was also the insurance agent.
Did this guy even sleep? I don't think so. No, I don't think he did.
No.
Yeah.
So after that, I basically said, like, this is the guy that we need to bring in. This is the guy that we need to make the co-owner of the company with you, which is essentially what ended up happening. But because I had already been there and I, built a lot of the systems with them, I ended up managing the biggest internal team within the one brokerage. I was managing about half of the company volume, and I ended up leaving the company at the end of last year to transition and become a branch manager myself with the new company that I'm at.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you said a lot there. It's a great story, but I'm curious because a lot of people do wonder about this on social media and also just out in the real world. When you're managing people, you're not just managing an interface. It's not just, a computer. It's a human being.
Yeah.
So they have their flaws, their weaknesses, their strengths, everything. They have their faults. How do you manage people properly and effectively, in your opinion, in your experience? Because I'm sure you've dealt with a lot of different types of personalities and you had to kind of maneuver how to properly, manage them and lead them correctly. How, in your opinion, how do you do that?
Yeah, I think it's something that I'm still learning how to do, especially as I'm continuing to build a bigger team now with being a branch manager. But early on in my career in real estate, David had me take something called the DISC assessment, where you're understanding the different type of personalities that you're coming across, and that's with the acronym DISC, right? So each one stands for something different of the type of person that you're dealing with. And a lot of it I use psychologically towards the sales aspect of the business and just understanding this is what I understand about the DISC profile. This is what I understand about different personality types. And I can pretty much off the bat tell what kind of personality, so which one of those categories somebody falls into within the first couple minutes of having a conversation with that person. And so that helped me with the sales aspect of the business, but I think that also helped me with the leadership aspect of the business to know, because when you take the DISC assessment yourself and you know where you fall on the DISC assessment, it also breaks out for you how the different categories, how the different personality types of people like to be conversed with in the way that they receive information. And so that's how you can go about kind of maneuvering the team, I think, in a way. But ultimately, I love my team. I wouldn't be able to be where I'm at without my team and the things that they handle for me. And I want to see my team grow and continue to be successful. But I think just part of building a business is, if you want to build something that's going to be, doing well, you have to have some sort of team culture.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard a lot of different types of assessments. Just in college when I was getting my degree, in the workforce, different companies. But I haven't heard of the DISC assessment. You mind if I kind of ask you kind of a fun question? From knowing me, if you remember, I know it was a while ago, but which one would you say I'm the DISC? Just out of curiosity.
I would say that you'd probably fall somewhere between a D and a C.
Which is what?
So because of the career and the analytical piece, I feel like you're somewhat analytical.
Yeah,
that's what comes with falling under the C category. The D category would be someone who is like an A type personality, understand like sales type of personality, or is good at getting people to do things that they want them to do. It's more of like a stronger, like dominant type of category for people. So like the way that I kind of look at the DISC assessment is like D would be that typical A type personality.
Right.
Think about like most general contractors are like a D type personality. An I is someone who wants to be liked, or like an influence type of person, someone who's really good at speaking. An S would be like someone who wants safety and stability.
Yeah.
And most women tend to fall in the category of an S just naturally. And then a C would be someone who is like analytical. Think about software engineers. That type of category of person would fall under a C. Now people mix between the two, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm a high I and a high D. So, but my high I takes the position over my high D. So that's why I would say like it's easy for me to content comes naturally to me for me to behind a camera to have conversations or things of that nature. It comes naturally to me through the being a high I, and then the high D part of it is like me being good at sales and things of that nature.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. But I'm not as detail oriented. I'm not analytical. I'm not going to sit behind a spreadsheet for 3 hours. Like I'm just going to get bored out of my mind.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No, and there's a lot of strengths to all the styles. It seems like, and that's cool. I'm gonna look into that more.
Yeah. It's a
you
cool assessment.
You said D and C, if I remember correct. Yes. Okay.
You'll have to let me know if I'm right.
Okay.
That'll be good. You'll have to let me know.
I'll look into it and I'll let you know for sure. So moving into sales and things of this nature, obviously you have to be a great salesman to do what you do. What do you think makes you great at sales? And if there's someone's watching this that wants to get better in sales in their own medium, in their own right, what do you think there's one thing they should really avoid?
For me, I would say the part that I think makes me good at sales is twofold. One, I actually care about my clients and what it is that they're getting themselves into. So I feel like if you're already approaching it from that standpoint, then the way that you're going to be perceived by the client is maybe not as a typical salesperson. They wouldn't necessarily respond in the same fashion if they were getting cold called by a random company at 10 in the morning. Like, who the hell is calling me? That's the first part of it. I think the second part of it is just the expertise, because I've been in it for so long. And so a lot of the things that I talk to my clients about and the way that I come across in my conversations is from a knowledge standpoint. Yeah. What was the last part of the question that you had said?
The last part is, let's say there's someone in sales that they're new, they're watching this and they want to, gain wisdom from you because you have a lot to offer. What's one thing he or she should really avoid in sales? Like something they shouldn't be doing? Is that personality trait, or maybe something they do that you see that people do that is incorrect? What would you say?
Yeah. If you're having a conversation with someone and you think that the other person can tell that you're trying to sell them something or that you're being pushy, then that's the immediate.
That's your answer.
Flag.
Yeah.
100%. Because that just doesn't work anymore. I don't think it works anymore on people. Like people want to have conversations with people that they know are going to lead them in the right direction. And I think the way that you can tell a great salesperson from a bad salesperson is that you wouldn't even know that the great salesperson is selling you on something to begin with.
Do you think being successful in sales, because this is a huge debate that a lot of people think that people perceive it differently, is this something that can be taught, or are you born like that?
I feel like you can learn sales.
You can learn it?
Yeah, I think you can learn sales. I think for some people it'll come more naturally.
Yeah.
Like what we just talked about with the DISC assessment, that it'll come more naturally than if it was somebody who wasn't under that category, right? Like a software engineer, for example, like someone who's like way into that category of being super analytical is going to have a tough time being in sales because they're just super, super detail oriented, and it's just not, those two don't typically mix of someone who's going to fall into a category of sales.
For sure. Can you walk me a little bit? Because I follow you on social media, and you're basically, every time I see you, you're in a different part of the world, getting something done, doing things, and you look like you're having a great time while working. I'm like, man, this guy's living the life. I love it. Walk me through a day in just the life of what you do.
Yeah. I think if I'm traveling, it's definitely different than when I'm home.
Let's how about we try it when you're home and traveling?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So like, I just got back from an amazing time in Europe that I was traveling for 2 weeks, and traveling, especially in different countries. Like, I'll just give you some context. When I'm in Europe, most parts of Europe are either 8 or 9 hours ahead from Pacific time.
Right.
So my working schedule is like 6 p.m. to 3 a.m.
Oh, God.
European time.
Yeah.
In order for me to be available for my
American
team and my
right,
clients
right.
in both, because I work all over the whole U.S., so I have clients on both the West Coast and the East Coast. But I have to be available for both, so that's typically the time that I'll make myself available. But during those times, depending on the trip, like a lot of my trips, I am still taking my cell phone calls. I'm still answering emails. I'm still in my meetings with my team. I'm still handling any sort of fires that I have with going on with my transactions or new projects that I'm working on. I'm not going to be at my computer as much as I would be when I'm home. So that's the only thing that's a little different. I think the beauty of the work that I do is that I don't have to be tied to a specific location. Like I could pretty much be wherever I want to be as long as I'm available for the time zones that I need to be in. Then I'm good to go. And as long as I have my phone or my iPad or my computer with me and some Wi-Fi, we're good.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I see it with the traveling piece now. I've been trying to have some more times where I can travel while being able to still block off my calendar. I can't just go take 2 weeks off and be completely removed from work.
Right.
I'm not there yet in terms of my business. But on a typical work day, like at home, I get up around like 6:45 ish, go to the gym. I'm back at my desk around 9, and from 9 pretty much until 9 p.m. I'm at my desk. Like 9 to 9 is a typical day. Sometimes it goes later if I have other projects that I'm working on.
And you're working from home or at your office or
I have an office at my house.
at your house? Okay,
Yeah.
in-home office. I see. Yeah.
My new company now, we only have 2 main offices, one in San Diego, one in Miami. But because I'm in the Bay Area, I don't go to either of them. So I have my main office at home, and that's a typical work day. At the latest, I try to be off my computer by like no later than 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. That's just because I'm like, I have to disconnect at some point
Yeah.
to go to bed and be able to get up
yeah.
in the morning for the gym.
Yeah. And, I think you may relate to this because something that I do that I struggle with, and I want to know if other people are struggling with this as well, is even when my work day is open, like done in theory, it's not really done because my mind is always on it and I'm just working no matter what is going on. And I've been called kind of like, you're just too much. People are like, okay,
Like a workaholic?
They like to say that, and like you're just too much. You think about it too much. You're too attached to this. You're kind of like too attached to it. And sometimes I think like, yeah, maybe they are right. Maybe I am a little attached to it, but it's just what keeps me going. It's what I like to do. Do you ever have that issue of man, I can never disconnect from work? Because I basically just I have that problem. I want to know if you relate to that?
To the choir with that one.
Yeah.
I'm literally, my brain is turned on 24/7 all the time. There's times where sometimes I can't even fall asleep because I'm literally just thinking about all the bullshit that I have to do or new projects that I'm working on or just where I want to take things in the next 3 months, right? And that takes a lot of mental space. But I also consider myself a workaholic. So like I'm not going to be, people know that I'm working 24/7. Like my friends and family that are with me, they know that I'm working 24/7, and that's not something that like I would adjust, if that makes sense. Like I feel like I always tell my friends and my family, like I want to have the ability to be retired by the age of 30, but I'm not going to be retired because I'm going to continue to find new things to do.
Yeah, right. I never really agreed with that concept of you have a lot of money and you retire. If
what else are you gonna do?
You'll be bored out of your mind.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
how many times are you gonna go play golf and travel in Mexico and Europe and whatever?
You go to every country, and then what are you gonna do next? Like,
and if you think about it, you could do that in like 6 months.
Yeah.
And then you'll be done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it is a blessing to have the ability to work and you want to work hard. So it is a great it's a great medium. So it really is a form of self-expression. And a lot of people don't consider it that way. They just consider work as work, but it is a form of self-expression. You could tell if someone's more, EQ intelligent or they're more analytical. You could tell a lot about a person through the way they work. So yeah.
And I love what I do.
Yeah.
So, like
it's very important.
Yeah. I've seen what real estate has done for not only myself. I've seen what real estate's done for my parents. I've seen what real estate's been able to do for my clients. Like one of my VIP clients, I'm partnered with him on one of the programs that he runs for helping clients get into short-term rentals. They get into their first short-term rental within 6 months, and I'm the lending coach in his program. We're working on a property right now for him that he just finished a renovation project on. He bought it for 1.3 million. He spent $500,000 on the renovation project, so he's all in for 1.7. The property appraised for just under 4 million, 3.885. He got like over $2 million in equity, like this.
Wow.
In less than, he bought it in November. We're in June.
How do you properly structure the deal?
I mean, for me,
Yeah.
well, for me, it would be based off of what he can qualify for. So, like in this example, he bought the home in all cash.
Mm-hmm.
But now that we're going back and we're refinancing his money back out, the first thing that I'm always looking at is, can the client qualify based off of their income and their debt? If they can't qualify off of their income and their debt, then we're going to start looking at what we consider non-conventional loans. And so non-conventional loans just have alternative ways of qualifying someone. Think about a general contractor, someone who gets a lot of deposits in their business, for example, but maybe has a ton of write-offs because they have all their subcontractors, they have all this equipment, and they have everything else. So their taxes might not reflect a lot of income. And one thing about the mortgage industry as a whole is banks and the way that the guidelines are written are not in the favor of business owners. They're in the favor of W-2 people. So they want people who can fit into a box, be like, yes, I'll give you financing. Like if you were to go to Chase Bank and say, I want to go get a mortgage, you have to have qualification off of your income and your W-2
Right.
or tax returns or things of that nature. So I work with a lot of people who don't have that qualifying ability. They don't fit into a box because maybe they own too much real estate, or their business has too much write-offs, or maybe they're sitting on a lot of cash and they just don't work at all and they just continue to buy more real estate. But we have to still be able to find ways to get those people financing, and there are banks who still do that kind of financing. So in this example, that's what I would say. We're going to exhaust those options first. Can they qualify off income and debt? If they can't, let's look at alternatives like a bank statement loan or 1099 only loan. Those are considered non-conventional loans that look at alternative qualifying ability. Instead of your taxes, we're only looking at your 1099, or we're only looking at your bank statements. And it makes it easier for someone to qualify. Like that same general contractor, I have an easy example. I have a general contractor client of mine in the Bay Area who was trying to buy this investment property. It was like 1.4, 1.5 million. And he, based off his tax returns, only qualified for a little bit over $1 million because he wrote off a lot on his business. We then switched the qualifying to be bank statement qualifying. And based off of the bank statement qualifying, he was able to then go qualify up to 10 million plus. So he like 10x to the qualifying ability just because we changed the loan program. Now, obviously that comes with different terms, but that's the trade-off when you don't pay all your money to Uncle Sam.
You really go hard for your clients.
Yeah.
You find the best deal that's tailored to them. Mm-hmm. It's not a one size fits all. You look at their personalized needs, their lifestyle,
Yeah.
and you structure it for them.
Correct.
That's what makes you so good at what you do. People out there watching that, you know, they want to work with the real estate company, they want to work with the broker.
Yeah.
What's one or two qualities they should maybe one or two qualities they should look for?
Yeah.
And one or two qualities they should stay away from, because there are a lot of bullshitters out there.
100%.
So,
yeah, for both mortgages and real estate, 80% of the market share is taken by 20% of the people that are in the industry. And I don't know the number of how many loan officers and how many realtors there are in the U.S., but those exams are not as difficult because anybody can go past those tests, but not everybody can structure a deal properly. My one hot take is that realtors and lenders, I think, should own real estate before they could actually start working with their clients to help their clients do the same thing.
and why do you think that?
Because I feel like you have to understand the process. You have to already have owned properties in order to provide that level of expertise. So both realtors
That's fair.
and lenders, like if you don't even own a primary residence or you don't own an investment property, then yeah, you might understand the way that the guidelines operate, but if you're not practicing what you preach. So that's the reason why for me, I'll invest in commercial properties next. In Section 8 properties, in long-term rentals, in short-term rentals. because I work in that space, I understand the investor mindset and I know how to analyze those deals. So that's ultimately what I would say. You want somebody who's going to be able to have that level of expertise to lead you in the right direction. But a credit union or a Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, they're only going to get you their specific pricing and their specific loan programs. Whereas when we go run the pricing, not only can I compare, this specific bank, but I'm shopping them against everybody else. It's kind of like Expedia, but for mortgage lenders.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Wow. So getting a little bit into the, you running your own business, what gave you the courage to do that? Because you could have, because you running your own business, it is risky.
Yeah.
Things might not work out.
Yeah.
That's the same thing I think. Things might not work out, but I try my best to just fight through the fears because you never know what's, waiting for you on the other side. It's not guaranteed. I never want to give people a false pretense like it's guaranteed. It isn't.
Yeah.
But how do you kind of fight through those emotions and work anyway? Because I know you're a go-getter, very intelligent, strong, smart guy, but of course you're still a human being. So you do experience those negative emotions to some degree. How do you personally fight through it? How do you deal with it? Is it therapy? Is it through reading books? Is it through spending time with your family? Like, what do you do?
That's a great question. I think that's normal for any business owner to have, some sort of I wouldn't want to say fear, but worry, or just understanding, being realistic in the sense that things might not work out.
Yeah.
Right? Like something can happen tomorrow, and then I'm like, well, things go to shit. I don't necessarily allow myself to have those emotions for like an extended period of time. I feel like I'm pretty good at allowing myself to feel that way, but I'm very solutions oriented.
How would you say, so I'm sorry to interrupt, but extended period of time, do you mind defining how long that is? Because everyone has a different definition of that.
Yeah, I for me, like I can tell when I feel a certain way, and I won't let myself feel that way for more than a couple hours.
Okay. Not even a day, just a couple of hours and that's it. Right.
Yeah, because I feel that the faster that you can just
push through it,
do things, like just the only way that you're going to get out of, feeling anxious or feeling worried or frustrated or whatever the case might be is just by doing whatever it is that you have to do in order to get yourself out of that situation.
Exactly.
Right? It's kind of like when you procrastinate and you're like, oh shit, I have an essay that's due, in a couple hours. It's like you end up doing it and then you feel alleviated.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I look at it. And like I'll internalize it. I know what's going on. I'll figure out what the problem is or come up with some sort of solution or things that I can do to allow myself to feel better and then try to get those things done.
I mean, honestly, I could relate to you because me in my personal life, when I have an issue going on, whether that's with working or just whatever it may be, something going on in my personal life with like relationships I'm in, business related, like friendships, whatever it is. When I have an issue and I sit there and I ruminate on it for more than 5 minutes, that's when I know it's just, I'm not getting anything done. But I swear to God, the second I get up and go do something, whether it's related or not even related to the issue, that's when the issue starts improving. Because even if it's non-related, let's say I'm worried about something and I just get up and I start working instead, unconsciously, I think the issue works itself out in my own head without even me realizing it. So really just taking action, right or wrong, is the answer to, I don't want to say every problem, but most problems.
Yeah. I would say that.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think the business owners would probably feel more anxious just based off of things that they feel that they need to do. Mm-hmm. But when you're a business owner, I think two things. I think speed is how quickly you can get things done, and if you are paying attention to how fast you can get things done and you actually want to move them quickly, then you're going to focus on doing them efficiently. And that's where you would focus on speed as the first thing. The second thing is then making decisions. So if you can combine those two things, the faster that you can make decisions, whether they're good or wrong, good or bad, will allow you to move things to the next phase. Because if you make a decision and you make a decision quickly and it goes bad, but you still are good at making decisions quickly, then you're going to make another decision to change it So you're going to go in the right direction afterwards.
So as a young kid, I want you to think of yourself, not you right now, but you as like a young kid.
Yeah.
You're still making decisions, even if you're a kid, you know?
Yeah.
You still have to make decisions about whatever you're doing in a kid's life.
Yeah.
Were you always a fast decision maker, or did you kind of grow into that as an adult?
I grew into that. I feel like I had to, because if I wasn't making fast decisions, then I was falling behind on timelines, or it would just cause more issues by me not being able to come up with an answer quickly.
Do you have that? Because me personally, I do have that kind of like, I'm never gonna play the victim, but that immigrant drive. Like my parents came here from a different country, and they went through hell and back to make it work for my family here.
Yeah.
I'm not letting them down no matter what happens.
100%.
To me, I have that drive in me, as in they picked up as grown men, grown women. They came here as adults and they raised us here, and they left everything there.
Yeah.
I was born in Iran. So they left everything to come here, and they said that to me just talking about it right now, see, I'm getting a little passionate.
Yeah.
That just puts a fire in me to keep going harder. When I'm tired, I think about that and I keep going harder. I think about my dad working very hard, because he was a carpenter. And I think about him working hard. I'm like, oh my God, I think I'm working hard. I look at him. I'm like, no, I'm not working hard. Then I go back and, like, you know. So, yeah. So does that kind of light a fire on you? Because you did tell me your parents did move here just like mine, immigrated.
Yeah. I think just not wanting to let them down. So
yeah, that's what I mean.
Right?
That's what I'm saying.
And that's the way that I kind of viewed it. Both my parents, as I was growing up with my siblings, I'm the middle child.
Mm-hmm.
I have an older brother who's 5 years older than me, and a younger sister. She's 2 years younger than me. And I would say that I'm considered the favorite. But even before that,
really, the middle child's now considered the overlooked one. But yeah, you got lucky there.
I would say that I'm considered the favorite.
Yeah.
But just growing up, like my parents were very strict. Like wouldn't be able to go out at night. If we did go out, we had to be back by a certain time. Didn't go to any parties. Had to get straight A's. And like both my siblings, they got straight A's. My sister graduated with like a 4.3 GPA from high school. Nice. My brother with something similar to that. I was at like a 3.6. I just didn't give a shit. I was like, I don't care about school. I'm not wasting my energy. I don't study for tests. But I still managed to get a 3.6 GPA.
Pretty impressive, yeah.
But for me, that's kind of the relationship that I had with my parents, was like, I know that I will at some point become successful. I don't know what that looks like or what direction that's going to go in. But that was from that drive, I think, working with them.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, and that's exactly what I mean. It's like you don't want to let your parents down for all the sacrifices they made and the success that you just want to add even more success and more joy to their lives.
I want to retire my parents. I want to pay off their mortgages and tell them that they can go do whatever the hell they want to do.
Yeah.
I know my dad is still going to continue to work.
Yeah,
even though he doesn't need to work.
Mine, literally, my dad too.
I'm like, you could go take the day off. Like, my dad just had surgery 2 days ago. He had 2 hernias.
Oh, shit.
And he has to be in bed. He has to be like not moving. He has to be taking things slow. Like now he needs help getting up until he like goes through the recovery phase. And that's just not like him. Like I can already tell, like after a week, he's gonna be super frustrated of like, I need to get out of here. I need to go do something. I need to work. But as opposed to just like you're sitting down watching TV all day long.
Dude, my dad and your dad need to sit down and get a beer together. They'll really relate to everything.
Yeah.
I just want to move into a final topic, and I'm going to be respectful of your time and everything. What I've noticed about you is, because I analyze you on social media, because I love the way you market yourself.
Thank
just
you.
As a person, the fun side of traveling and doing work and just what you do, you're very knowledgeable. You're not just, again, a bullshitter. So I love the way that you market yourself and the way that you brand yourself as an educational influencer, if you don't mind me calling that. Yeah. How did you build the skills to do well in that medium? Like, how did you hire out a team? Did you learn the editing skills yourself? Did you go on certain, platforms to edit or whatever, or did you hire somebody, or how was that?
When I first got into real estate, was when I started wanting to post more content, but I didn't get into content posting I think until maybe a year or so after I had already gotten into real estate. And at the time, one of my close friends, he's my creative director now. He helps me with everything content related, but we both became entrepreneurs at the same time.
Right.
We both worked at the airport, and then after the airport, we both went to banking. After banking, I got fired and he quit, but it was around the same time, and we both became entrepreneurs. He wanted to get into social media management and doing more photography and videography, and I got into real estate.
Oh, okay.
And so as I started to get more and more into it, he would basically just help me out with things like he would put up the camera, he would do the recordings. I have zero editing skills whatsoever. I cannot edit a video for shit. In fact, I'm just not even the creative aspect to be like, oh, we should be recording this or this angle. It's not like me at all. I have to have the team that's with me that helps me with those things. So he and I started working together on it. We handling the posting, the schedule, coming up with ideas of what I wanted to talk about, and taking it to where it was. And then in the last 7 months or so, I was working with a social media team out of Pasadena, who I'm still working with now. But
nice.
I brought back my friend to work with me again as a creative director to actually readjust my content strategy now, do a complete 180 with my content. After my trip to Europe, I had a pretty insightful conversation with a lot of the social media guys that handled the influencer accounts for the guys that were with us. We had a couple big influencers that were in the event with us that had over 1 million plus followers.
Sure.
And I was able to see how they navigated things when it came to content and just their day to day. And I feel like I want to be able to post more content about what it is that I'm doing, what are the struggles as an entrepreneur, building a business, lifestyle content, the places that I'm going, the things that I'm doing with my team. So I'm going to kind of restructure it to a little bit more of that now, as opposed to just behind a camera talking about lending.
Well, you know what, man? You say behind the camera talking about lending. You may say it that way, but when I'm watching your content, I'm like, this guy knows what he's saying. I really do think you know what you're saying, because there's a lot of people that are in your business that, unfortunately, and I'm not no hate here, they just kind of talk about their lifestyles all day. I'm like, okay, talk, but I respect it, it's fine, but they kind of just make it all about that. Yeah. It's not about the nitty gritty, the details. Yeah. You incorporate both, and what you do now is great, and I'm sure what the 180 you're talking about, that's going to be greater. And I love both. I love this, I love the other way, and I know you're really smart, so whatever direction you're going to take the ship in, I trust you, man. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So where can people find you? If anyone wants to get into contact with you, where can people find you?
I'm on all platforms at Richie the Lender, RICHI, and I'm going to start getting into YouTube now as well.
Nice.
So people will start to see some of the YouTube content if they follow me there.
Perfect. So we're going to go ahead and link in the description everything, so you could go ahead and follow Richie the Lender. We're going to link that in the description. Everyone, comment down below what your favorite part of this interview was. I had a great time sitting down with him. This guy has this dragon energy. I'm getting fired up just sitting here talking to him. Guys, let me know what your favorite part of this interview is. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you at the next one.